Hello, everybody. Scott Golden with Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel. Welcome. If you are new here, please subscribe. Leave comments below as we go through WrestleMania 36, the 36th edition of the biggest professional wrestling extravaganza in the United States, perhaps even the world. And I will say, in my 31 years as a fan, 12 years associated with the business, I have never been as fired up, to quote Tommy Rich, for all the wrong reasons as I am tonight. This event was interesting, to say the very least, capped off by what I would say is the worst main event that I have ever seen. No disrespect meant to the talent involved, but if we wanted C-rate level movie stunt show stuff, we could go to Big Japan, or we could go to a deathmatch, mud show, to borrow a line from Jim Cornette, or we could go somewhere else. We could go in somebody's backyard. I don't know what anybody was thinking. I don't know what substances they were on when they came up with this concept, but what I can say is I want some, because they were on something really, really good. As mentioned, WrestleMania this year across 2 evenings because of the coronavirus and the inability to hold it in a major stadium. I think that was a mistake personally. I believe wholeheartedly that it is a large mistake to have held this event, especially the revenue lost. But more than that, how narcissistic does a person have to be, or a company have to be, to put its talent in danger in order to carry out this idea that we need to continue entertainment as if the world cannot continue without it? I'm sorry, I can't rationalize the need to put human beings in danger for the sake of an event that will forever be heralded as the worst WrestleMania of all time by anybody with half a brain. Now, that doesn't mean that there were bad things in every match on the show. Much to the contrary. There's a lot of good stuff here. But the simple fact is, no one is going to turn to WrestleMania 36 in 20 years and say, this is the night I became a fan. No one is going to say, kids, teenagers today aren't going to say to their kids someday, hey, you've got to see this event because it's a must-see event. You're not going to say that. You may say that about moments, perhaps, and we'll know further tomorrow night exactly whether there are enough moments to pull something together, but you're not going to say this is a can't-miss show. Much to the contrary, you're going to say this is the definition of a missable event. Okay, so we've got a pre-show. We start off with the pre-show. I'm not quite sure why Pete Rosenberg was part of this extravaganza, but he was, alongside Corey Graves. I don't really understand the concept of having matches in a pre-show on the network. People are there, they're a captive audience anyway, and with this being spread over 2 nights, do you really need a pre-show? Furthermore, try to convince people to buy this on traditional pay-per-view or the Fight app when they can get it for free if they're a new subscriber, or for $9.99 if they're a returning subscriber, convincing them to pay 3, 4, 5, 10 times whatever the number is for the event. It screams of greed, it screams of corporate greed, and it screams that we consider the fan base rather unintelligent, but that's just me. We start with Cesaro versus Drew Gulak. Cesaro getting the win in the match. Gulak has the advantage early, but a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker gets Cesaro going in the right way. One thing I like about them starting with this match is both guys look snug. Both guys have European undertones. Cesaro, obviously, because he is from the European continent, and Gulak, who trained under Chris Hero at least a good part of his career, has a good infusion of European, British, and American catch wrestling, and it shows here because the style is snug, it's stiff, it's believable, it's exactly what's needed when there's no audience in the building. I'm kind of curious we can't have audience members, but we can have folks to set up lighting. We can have folks to play music, but we can't have audience members. Somehow, those who came in the generations before all the pyrotechnics and ballyhoo and craziness might look at this and go, this was unnecessary. Wrestling on the marquee, and I know Vince McMahon isn't a fan of that, but the fact of the matter is the athletic talents of the men and women involved in this production could have sufficed for 2 nights, and we could have done without all the glitz and glamour, even if we call it WrestleMania, because I think the fan base would have understood. In any event, we see Gulak taking the majority of the match to the canvas, and Cesaro, obviously having the height and weight advantage, is able to dump his adversary to the outside. He clotheslines him off the apron, and good body work, arm work specifically by Gulak, and use of the steps, shoulder first by Gulak upon Cesaro, and Gulak takes too long and gets rocked with an uppercut for a near fall. Recovery and returns to the arm. Cesaro later in the contest unable to do his neutralizer finisher because of the injured arm, so telling a good story there. Again, I like both of these guys because they know how to keep things moving at a good pace. However, they also know how to tell a very basic story. And then we actually see a no hands and no hair, as Cesaro is shaved bald, but a no hands airplane spin for the win. Haven't seen an airplane spin as a winning maneuver probably since the old Coliseum video open of like 1985-86, but it was cool to see that. Now, I believe they said the name of the lady who interviewed King Corbin next, who I don't understand was on this program. I don't understand his reason to be on the program. I don't understand the draw of having him on the program, and I don't understand why he needs to take up space on the roster when there are so many talented individuals as part of the sport. But anyway, Braxton interviews Corbin and notes that he took out his adversary Elias a couple of weeks back, and basically Corbin says he did what he needed to do. He regrets not doing more damage to him, and the only regret that he has is that he didn't take him out for good. He reminds us that he defeated Kurt Angle last year at Mania and got rid of him, and that he will do the same to Elias on this very evening. Then he brings out a 99-cent harmonica and puts together some semblance of caterwauling music to incite the fans that weren't in the building. So we then go to the combination of Renee Young, Booker T, and Mark Henry, who discuss Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler for later in the evening. We then switch to the main card of the evening, and Stephanie McMahon opens the program. I don't quite understand that. If you're going to have a figurehead or a company representative, why not have Vince? Even though Vince is looking rather elderly, I think if you really want the vibe of a company spokesman, I think Vince is the person to do it. He is the one that the mainstream audience would identify as synonymous with the WWE brand. Anyway, Stephanie goes on to say that the WrestleMania event is going to take place without fans from the Performance Center and other locations. She basically implies that the circumstances of our time, I'm not quite sure if the members of the WWE roster or front office think that they're going to burst into flames or get struck by lightning if they mention the virus. I understand the concept that we want to provide a safe space for people and make sure all the snowflakes aren't terribly worried about, the real world while they're watching their entertainment. But at the same time, if we said the coronavirus for 2.3 seconds, I don't think the world's going to end. And I think to say current circumstances or the reason that we are in this predicament. I think it just reeks of, again, being completely out of touch. Say what's really going on in the world. It's a historical event. Let's be adults about it and move on. It doesn't impact your ability to put on a quality product to come into the real world for just a second. Then we see clips of various people throughout past WrestleManias, including but not limited to John Legend, Aretha Franklin, Gladys Knight, and so many others, singing their own renditions or amalgamations of renditions of America the Beautiful as we open the WrestleMania event and extravaganza. Rob Gronkowski welcomed everyone to the event, and he says that tonight he's interviewing his good friend Mojo Rawley, and everybody's hyped and all excited and all that good stuff. Michael Cole and JBL will be your SmackDown commentators for the evening. Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton performing the duties for Raw. We open with a women's tag team championship match with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus the Kabuki Warriors. Bliss and Cross do walk away from the contest as your victors, and I actually found this to be one of the better matches of the evening. It's kind of interesting to see Asuka and Kairi Sane interacting with a crowd that's not there and doing so better than many people interact with a crowd that is there. Compliments to them. Both of them really animated, really believable, and really exciting to watch. Asuka tags in Kairi Sane to start the match, and Bliss takes an early advantage. She's so good. Alexa Bliss is so good at just being that smarmy, annoying, I want to pop you in the head heel. She's beautiful both in her performance and in body. And so heels take over for a little bit, but there is a blind tag, and Bliss rocks Asuka with a sliding drop kick that looks really quite solid. Nikki Cross eventually leaps off the apron onto Sane, and the Kabuki Warriors regain control for quite a while. And they isolate Nikki Cross for a good bit. Michael Cole, throughout the process, says that basically, I think and JBL says too, that this is a star-making event for Cross. I didn't really see that. I saw it as a good showing, but I wouldn't say that you could look back at this in 10 years and say this is the night that Nikki Cross made it. I think Nikki Cross has been assuredly making it for several weeks and months leading up to this moment, and I think it was a good WrestleMania showing, but I don't think it's one of those all-time standout moments. Bliss briefly regains control, but misses a move in the corner, and then we see the double heel stomp for a near fall, and again back and forth with some heat, some cutoffs, and the match really goes on for quite a while. Asuka back in at one point and slows the pace down a little bit, and Asuka with some really intense strikes, especially a knee that catches Cross in the face, and Cross with a cross body, no pun intended, for a near fall there. Again, back to the blind tag. The matches kept moving relatively, at a good pace. I think at some points they did a little too much. They tried to fit too much into a short span of time, but I think that a lot of that had to do with a little bit of inexperience with the girls in there, especially Nikki Cross. Nikki Wilson. I haven't mentioned this too in comparison to the Japanese stereotypes, a little bit, especially during the mid part of the match. Cross recovers, and she fights her way back into contention, powerbomb clothesline combo on Cross for a near fall, and Asuka misses with a shoulder tackle attempt and nails the corner post. And then Sane misses a spinning back fist. Cross hits a neck breaker. Bliss then hits Twisted Bliss to win the Women's Tag Team Championship. I think it's a good idea to put a championship match on in the opening slot of a WrestleMania show, especially one this bizarre. And because I think it says, okay, we're starting off and we're going to make some history this evening. I think that was a good idea. Caleb Braxton then interviews Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro, and Zayn brags about having some plans and ideas about how to neutralize Daniel Bryan later in the evening. Then we see a very short, probably 30, 45 second, I guess you call it vignette, of Shayna Baszler getting ready for her match. Her strikes, even in shadow boxing, really look believable, obviously, with a real fight background. I wish they did more of this in WWE. Matter of fact, I wish they did more of this in wrestling, too. Even a 30 to 60 second clip in between matches showing a person in training or in preparation can go a long way to making the combat feel more real, and I think it's a really good idea to do. Unfortunately for everybody watching at home, Elias and Corbin up next. Corbin noted that he is in the building, but Elias is not. Elias then is called out, and Corbin says he wants the referee to raise his hand so he can win by forfeit. For some reason, this shot me back to SummerSlam 90 when Sensational Sherry and Sapphire did the same thing. Unfortunately for those watching at home, Elias was in the building. I love Elias. I enjoy the character a lot, but the Corbin-Elias pairing has done nothing for me and continues to do so. Anyway, they roll around on the outside a little bit, and Elias came out and smashed his guitar over the back of Corbin before the match started, using a little bit of smoke and mirror to kind of bring a different pace to the proceedings thus far. Elias jumps Corbin and really basic, what I would call backyard wrestling brawling ensues, punch, kick, punch, kick. I really don't see much here that couldn't have been skipped or left for another evening. We can't even say it was to get the guys on the event a payday because we don't know whether they're going to be paid or not. It actually would be very interesting to me to see whether or not they will get paid for their work on this night, if they're guaranteed money or how that's going to work. I don't know that any journalist, of which I'm not one, I'm just giving my opinions and thoughts from years in the business as well as 30-plus years as a fan. But I wonder, how is payroll taken care of for this event when there's no revenue to be going in from? So we see some new falls, and we go back to the floor. Elias is set shoulder first into the ring post. Corbin then uses a series of elbows that look like they're out of 1986 to get the advantage back going his way. Elias recovers, and then